You're listening to the Online Business Blueprint, brought to you by PlatformLaunchers.com. I'm John Stange, and it's great to be with you this week, as always, because here we talk about building and growing and monetizing our online platform. We talk about taking our passion, turning it into a platform, and helping that to become our actual paycheck, our weekly paycheck. And so we've got all sorts of things that we like to talk about here, and certainly things we like to talk about in the Platform Launchers community. And this week, our subject is all about hurdles. Specifically, we're going to be talking about overcoming the early hurdles of building an online platform. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, if you're listening to the podcast, there's probably a variety of hurdles that you have wrestled with as you've been trying to create content and then share that with your audience or different things of that nature. Well, we're going to talk about what it means to overcome those hurdles. And I'm going to give you some practical solutions after we identify the hurdles, and stick around to the very end of the podcast, because at the very end, I'm going to let you know where you can obtain a resource that I think you're going to find really helpful, a one-page resource that I've put together that's got all sorts of things on it that are useful for this discussion. I'll tell you where to get that in just a little bit, but if you're starting to build an online platform, I think that you could probably recognize that that can feel both exciting and intimidating at the same time, because on one hand, you're stepping into a world of possibilities because you're sharing your message, you're helping people, you're creating opportunities that you've dreamed about, and that's certainly all wonderful. But then on the other hand, the early stages of building an online platform can often feel like you've walked into a crowded stadium and realize that no one's noticed that you're even there yet. And maybe that's a feeling that you've wrestled with, this anonymity or this thought that, there's a whole bunch of people creating content that's similar to yours. How are you even going to stand out in the midst of all the different content creators that are already established? And I'll tell you what, if you felt that way, you are absolutely not alone, because I've met many people that are in the process of building an online platform. Some have been doing it for a while. Some are at the early stages of building their online platform. But every successful author that you've ever heard of, every successful coach, content creator, entrepreneur, they've all been in the same exact position that you're in. They've all felt what you're currently feeling. They've all experienced the same things that you're experiencing. But the difference between those who succeed and those who give up, it's not actually talent, because there's a lot of people that have succeeded and a lot of people that have given up that actually have the same amount of talent. But there's a difference between those that were successful and those that weren't. And the difference typically comes down to perseverance, focus, and a willingness to grow through the early challenges. And again, these early challenges are things that we all experience. These are things that we all face. So, that being said, I've actually taken the time to break down 6 of the most common early stage hurdles that you might face if you're deciding to build an online platform. These are hurdles that are common to all of us, things that I have wrestled with, things that are things that people who are in our Platform Launchers membership community have wrestled with. But I'm not going to just identify the hurdles. That would be one. I think it'd be helpful just to identify them. That'd be fine. But I actually want to offer the solutions that will help you not just survive this phase, but thrive in the midst of it and figure out what to do as you get beyond it. So let's talk about these hurdles. But like I said, as I address each of these hurdles, I'm going to give us a challenge. I'm going to identify the challenge, and then I'm also going to identify a solution that helps us meet that challenge. So hurdle number 1 that you have probably faced or maybe are facing at present, if you're trying to build an online platform, that first hurdle is probably something along the lines of finding clarity of focus. Finding clarity of focus. So here's the challenge. When you're just starting out, I think it's tempting to talk to everyone about everything, right? When you're building an online platform, you think, I got to talk to everybody about everything. You might try to to cover 10 different topics, and you might try to appeal to every age group, and you might find yourself switching directions every few weeks. And what's the result of doing that? Well, the result is your audience doesn't know exactly who you're for, and they also don't know what to expect. And as a result, it doesn't really help you build an audience. So there's a solution to this. That's the challenge, that's the struggle, but here's the solution. You want to get crystal clear on three specific things. First of all, get crystal clear on your audience. Who are you trying to help? Be specific. Try to answer that in your mind right now, even as I'm saying these words. Who are you trying to help? Be very, very specific. Think about their age, think about their challenges, think about their goals, think about their values. All right. So get crystal clear on that. That's part of the solution. Second part is this: get crystal clear on your mission. Why does your platform even exist? What transformation or benefit will you help people experience? Get clear on that. You want to know. You want to be able to articulate that. I say that at the start of every show here. What do I say? We're here to help you build, grow, and monetize your online platform. Right? That's what we do with platform launchers. We help you build, grow, and monetize your online platform. That's our mission, right? That's why our platform exists. So, what transformation, what benefit are you going to help people experience? Third thing you want to be crystal clear about when we talk about the solution to this is your core topics. And I would say choose 2 to 3 main themes and then stick with those main themes. Don't try and have 5 things, 10 things, whatever it may be, because you want people to be able to associate your name with something specific. Now, you don't have to get any of this perfect on day one. I think you'll refine this as you go and as you attempt to serve your audience. They're going to help you refine this. But starting with a clear focus is going to help you connect faster, and it's going to help you build trust more clearly. So, like I said, hurdle number one that we all face is finding clarity of focus. All right, hurdle number two. This is a big one for many of us, and there's some that are even live on the call here in our Platform Launchers membership community that would say that this has been one of their major struggles, and I certainly understand that because all of us wrestle with this. But hurdle number two is this: creating content consistently. Creating content consistently. Here's the challenge. When your audience is small, I think it's very easy to start feeling like your content isn't making much of an impact. You wonder, you think, am I even serving that many people? Am I making that much of an impact? And without immediate feedback, because if you don't have a big audience yet, you're not going to get that much feedback, right? So without that immediate feedback, I think motivation can sometimes dip. And I think posting consistently becomes difficult because you start wondering, is anyone even utilizing my content? But we've got to create content consistently. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is this: shift your focus from outcome to process. Think about that statement. Shift your focus from outcome to process. What you want to do is commit to a realistic publishing schedule. Maybe something like once a week for blog posts, 3 times a week for social media, once every 2 weeks for a podcast, something like that, although I prefer weekly for podcasts. But even if you did it every 2 weeks, that'd be more consistent than not doing it at all. But treat that, whatever schedule that you commit to, right? A realistic publishing schedule, treat it like a non-negotiable appointment. Something that it's non-negotiable. It's an appointment you've made. It's a commitment you made, and you're going to keep it. Because here's the secret: consistency compounds. Every piece of content you publish is like planting a seed. And what happens is over time, those seeds start growing into a library of value that draws people in. And you will be surprised how massive your library can grow over the course of a year. A small audience today doesn't mean a small impact tomorrow. It keeps compounding. Consistency compounds. I remember 4 years ago when I started Platform Launchers, I started it on day one. I had no content. There was no content when I started. How could there be content until I started it, right? But now you look at it in our video library, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of training on every sort of subject that you could think of. We have guest experts that have taught us all sorts of things. It's like a treasure trove now, but it took time to build. But the consistency, it compounds. By the way, if you want free access to that library, just go to platformlaunchers.com and take a 14-day free test drive of our members club. You'll have immediate access to that content library. But hurdle number two really is creating content consistently. All right. Hurdle number 3 that we all wrestle with is this: building an audience from scratch. Building an audience from scratch. The challenge we face looks like this. In the beginning, I think it feels something like we're speaking into a void. I record all my podcasts in my home office. My home office, I have it set up here in the basement of my home because it's the quietest, least echoey part of my entire home. And so I set up an office here some years ago, and I record all sorts of content down here. And oftentimes, as I'm creating this content, it's just me that's around. And even if there is an audience, I don't see them. And so it could feel like you're speaking into a void, but it particularly feels like that when you're building an audience from scratch. And when you think about algorithms online, algorithms don't typically favor brand new accounts, right? And without trust and without name recognition, it can feel hard to gain some traction in those early days. So that's why building an audience from scratch can really be a major hurdle. But let me give you a solution. Instead of trying to go viral, just focus, have a completely different mindset with your focus. Focus on connecting deeply with the people you're already reaching. So don't worry about going viral. Maybe that'll happen for you. I've had that happen to me a couple times, and it's wonderful. It's helpful. But you can't focus on that because you can't really control that. So instead of focusing on going viral, focus on connecting deeply with the people you already reach. Reply to every comment, answer their messages, ask questions, share stories. The early audience that you build is going to become a group of people that some of them will become your most loyal supporters over the long term. And many of them are going to help you build your audience because they'll tell other people about you. And something else I'll say about this, and this I've found very helpful: borrow audiences. In this early stage where you don't have a built-in audience, borrow audiences from others. Now, this doesn't mean stealing followers, but what it means is collaborating with people who already have a platform. And you could do that with guest posts. You could do that with podcast interviews. You could do that with joint webinars. Things like that can expose you to people who might have never found you otherwise. And many content creators will tell you that in the early days, before they had an audience of their own built up, they found it really, really helpful to collaborate with others, to borrow audiences. But that's a hurdle, right? Building an audience from scratch, many of us feel like that's a hurdle, understandably. But I hope some of those things that I just suggested are solutions that you find helpful. But how about this for a hurdle? This is number 4 on my list of 6. Number 4 is tackling technical hurdles, right? The challenge that we face looks like this. In the online world, many things, I think many of us feel like it comes with a steep learning curve. Even if you're adept at tech, some people would say, no, there's a pretty steep learning curve there because you've got websites that need to be built, email marketing tools. I remember when I was just starting out, email marketing tools were mysterious to me and they actually intimidated me. You've got podcast equipment, you've got editing software. I think it could all feel overwhelming. You know, you think, I mean, do I have to figure this stuff all out in the same day? Well, here's the solution. Start simple. You do not need the perfect camera. You do not need the most advanced website. You do not need expensive software to begin. Use what you have and then upgrade later. Just start with what you have. Many creators, if you ask people that, and there's people that have very, very popular platforms that really this is all they use. Many people just start with their smartphone and then they supplement it with free design tools like Canva and just like a basic website platform. Sometimes they just use freebies that are out there. But the main tool that many content creators use as they get things started is just their phone, their smartphone. So don't feel like you have to go and invest in a whole bunch of things right when you're starting. Test the waters. Just use your phone. It's got a microphone. It's got a camera. Gives you the ability to type even, right? Focus on one learning tool at a time. You know, focus on one thing at a time. You can master your email list first if you want, and then you can focus on video editing and just keep making steady progress all along the way. Don't drown in tech tutorials trying to figure out everything all at once. Just do one thing at a time. And if you have to start with anything, just start with your phone and then create content a little bit from there. By the way, with podcasting, all I do is I just use a USB microphone and free software called Audacity, and that's it. and I just record it through my computer using Audacity, which is free software, and a USB microphone that took almost no time at all to learn. Again, I know some people that do their podcasting or their vlogging or their YouTube channel, they just do it all through their smartphone. So you have options. But tackling those technical hurdles can certainly be a major hurdle for many people. And for some people, that's enough to keep them out of the game entirely. All right, the fifth hurdle that I want to make mention is the hurdle of knowing what's working. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. All right, the hurdle of knowing what's working. So here's the challenge. In the early stages of doing what you're doing, you may feel a bit unsure about what's actually resonating with your audience. And without data, it's easy to guess wrong. You actually need some data that's going to help you figure this out. But in those early stages, sometimes you might look at what you're doing and say, I feel a little bit unsure. Like, how do I know what's actually resonating with my audience? Well, let me suggest some things. This is the solution here. Pay attention to two things. Pay attention to numbers for sure. So if you have something in particular that gets downloaded more, or a YouTube video that gets watched more or shared more, whatever it may be, pay attention to those numbers for sure. But also pay attention to feedback. Look at what generates feedback. Look at the feedback that you get. You could track some very simple metrics like views and shares and email signups. That's all wonderful and useful. But again, also make sure you're listening to what people say in comments, in emails, in conversations, all of that. That's going to help you figure out what's working. And if a certain post gets more engagement, do more things like it. If your audience consistently asks the same question, then create content that answers it. The key is to let your audience's responses shape your direction. I know a guy who wanted to just in general create a financial channel, but he noticed that most of his videos that gained traction were videos that focused on paying off home mortgages. So he just started creating more and more content related to paying off your mortgage. And I think after a while, it was maybe getting a little bit boring for him because he thought, what more can I say about paying off your mortgage? It's just kind of like he should just create like a 1-second video that's like, look, pay off your mortgage, the end, right? But he just noticed that's what his audience wanted. So he created more and more content that way, and it helped him build, in particular, a YouTube channel that got a lot of attention. And it was his audience that told him what they wanted. So you got to pay attention to what's working. You got to know what's working, but you look at the stats and you also listen to feedback. And I have a sixth hurdle that I want to finish up with here, and that's this. And it's something mental, okay? We've got the hurdle of managing our mindset and staying motivated. All right. So the challenge we face is this hurdle number 6 here, this idea of managing our mindset, staying motivated. This is where a lot of people quit. And it's, again, not because they lack skill. They've got the skill. They quit because they lose heart. And I think what happens sometimes is people find it very easy to compare themselves to established creators, people that have been around for a while, people that are highly established, and they start feeling like they're falling behind because they're not where this person who's highly established happens to be. And so as a result, they feel like they're falling behind. And maybe you felt that way too. Maybe you find yourself comparing yourself to people that have been doing this forever. Please stop the comparison game. Learn from people that have been doing this for a while, but don't keep comparing yourself to them. They are not at day one. You might be at day one. They're not at day one. Remember, this is the solution here now. Remember that every big platform that you're currently admiring, that it was once small. It also had its day one, right? Growth takes time. And the early stages are an investment. They are not a waste. You're going to learn so many valuable things during those early stages. A few mindset practices, if I may suggest these things here, that can help you overcome this hurdle. One is this: celebrate small wins. You can celebrate big wins too, but don't forget to celebrate the small wins. Have you reached 50 followers? Great. Celebrate it. Have you published 10 posts in a row? Awesome. Celebrate it. Mark it down. Be encouraged. Celebrate those small wins. Limit your comparisons. Again, learn from others, but don't measure your chapter 1 against their chapter 20. They're at chapter 20. Learn from them. but also go back into their content and see how they did at chapter 1. You're going to discover that they started very humbly. You're going to discover that their early stuff is not as good as their later stuff. They got better. Learn from them. Limit your comparisons, though. Learn from them, but limit the comparisons. And something else mindset related that I hope will keep you motivated, and that's this: keep your why front and center. Write down why you started what you're doing, and read it on the days when you feel like quitting. Come back to that why. Think about that why. Think about why you're doing what you're doing. I'll tell you what, the beginning of your online platform, it's actually a very exciting time. But it's a journey, right? It's a journey that you're on. And in many respects, it's like the foundation stage of a building. When you look at the foundation stage of a building, the foundation stage is very slow. It's not glamorous. For the longest time, you look at it and you think, it doesn't even look like anything yet. And yet the concrete's being poured and the pipes are being put in place and the drainage is being adjusted for, and all sorts of things are going. Once the foundation is like a real good foundation is set, the rest of the building comes up rather quickly, right? But most of the work in that non-glorious foundation stage, it's invisible to others, but it's the right thing to be building. And because without a strong foundation, no structure can stand for a long time. I have to tell you, I mentioned already that my office is in the basement of my house. I got to tell you, 42 years ago, my house was built. And I am super, super grateful for the fact that 42 years ago, when this building was built, that they made for a solid foundation, a good foundation. It doesn't leak water. I don't have water issues down here. It's just a very comfortable living space in this basement. I'm really grateful that 42 years ago, a good foundation was built. It makes for comfortable living. Well, when it comes to our online platforms, building a good foundation makes a lot of sense, and it's the right thing to do, and it's going to help you build something healthy and useful and valuable. Yes, you're going to face obstacles. We all face them. Yes, you're going to face seasons of uncertainty and low visibility and technical frustrations. We all deal with that stuff, but you're also going to experience breakthroughs. Your first comment from a stranger who says, "This helped me so much," that's gonna fuel your fire for quite a while. Your first collaboration, your first 100 subscribers, all of that stuff is going to be extremely beneficial and super exciting, and it's going to motivate you. And that's certainly valuable. It's all part of that foundation that you're going to be building. So do not despise, I've heard this said many times, do not despise small beginnings. Every post you share, every person you help, every step you take, it's moving you closer to the platform that you envision. And when you look back a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, you'll realize that you've built something real. You've built something valuable. You've built something that was worth the effort. So keep showing up, keep learning, keep planting seeds, keep doing all of that, because the audience that you're meant to serve is out there, and they need what only you can offer. And I'll tell you something that I made mention of at the start of this week's episode. On the website at platformlaunchers.com, I have something there. It's ready to go. It's going to be there for you. When you hear this episode, it's going to be live on the website. And it's basically an online platform quick start plan. All you're going to do, you're just going to go to platformlaunchers.com, and then you're going to click blog, and that's going to take you to the blog post that goes with this podcast. You're going to see overcoming the early hurdles of building an online platform. You'll see it there. But I have a 90-day action framework for early stage growth. And it's basically going to take you through multiple steps. It's going to take you through 6 steps that are going to help you set a 90-day goal that will allow you that at the end of 90 days, you're going to have a clearly defined audience and mission. You're going to have at least 12 pieces of core content published. You're going to have an email list started and growing, and you're going to have a handful of meaningful audience connections at that point if you follow this 90-day action framework, this quick start plan that I have available at platformlaunchers.com. So stop over at the website. You'll be able to see it. It's right at the base of the blog post that goes along with this podcast. All you have to do is go to platformlaunchers.com, click on blog, and you'll see overcoming the early hurdles of building an online platform, and it's right at the base of that. It's right in there. It's going to be there for you to utilize. I hope you'll print a copy, take a look at it, and just follow it for 90 days. It's going to serve you well. It's always fun to talk about these things. I have to tell you, someone who's more than a decade deep now in building my online platform, I have to tell you that many of the benefits that I enjoy right now, I did not enjoy on day one, but I saw them in my mind. I saw them by faith before I ever saw them by sight. Isn't that something that the Lord encourages us to do when it comes to our Christian faith as well, right? We the essence of faith is seeing something before you could see it with your eyes. And in many respects, the things that we're doing with our online platforms or anything that we're building for the long term, you've got to see it by faith before you get to see it with your eyes. And I hope that this helps you just find a little encouragement in the process of what you're trying to build. But that's it for us this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to be able to spend this time with you. We look forward to catching up with you again right here next time. In the meantime, have a wonderful week. Be sure to stop by our website, platformlaunchers.com, and get that 90-day quick start guide at the end of this week's blog post. And we look forward to catching up with you again right here next time. In the meantime, have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you very soon. Take care.